Hey everybody, welcome to Example of Play. Today I'm going to be playing a bit of Field of Glory Kingdoms, the latest from the AGEOD studio and Slitherine, who have brought you a lot of cool strategy games in the past, especially from AGEOD, that some of them are really interesting but kind of hard to get into. But they changed that with their Empire, Field of Glory Empires, and now Kingdoms, a new system that takes a lot of those old ideas and puts it into a much more playable system that'll be reminiscent of Europa Universalis or Crusader Kings to some extent if you played those before. Though this is turn-based rather than real-time. But here is to kind of give you an idea of the scope of the game. This is the grand campaign. There are some more focused, shorter campaigns if you're looking for that. But really, probably the meat of the game is here on the big map where you can pick from all these different factions, even though a lot of them are really tiny. It gives you a lot of choices. You can also be a bigger kingdom to start, like England, the Byzantines, the Holy Roman Empire, France, and so on. But for me, on these kind of games, I always like to start with playing as treating Ireland as kind of my tutorial island to learn the game, playing a very small faction with a goal, just my own personal goal of uniting Ireland as its own little country, and then seeing where I can go from there. But that makes for kind of a fun mini campaign for me anyway. So to win the game, you want to build up legacy points, which we might get to, but we won't start with too many of those at the beginning since we're kind of a backwater uh, little bitty province at the start of the game. So that's how this game works for your total victory is going to come from generating legacy points, which is cool. I liked how it worked in Empires, and it works similarly here in Kingdoms. As you build up your kingdom over time, there's various ways you get legacy points, and those are kind of like your final score. That can come from a lot of different ways, and then you're not just painting the map your color because it's the game kind of recognizes that that's not how history normally goes. You kind of rise and fall, and that's what can happen here to you. That the bigger you get, the harder it is to maintain what you've built, and then but even as you decline, if you've built all those legacy structures or different means of generating those points, you'll keep generating those points as the game goes on. So even in decline, you're still kind of working towards victory, which is cool. But anyway, let us jump over here to Ireland, where I chose to play as Munster, which starts with just one little province. It's kind of hard to see the way they're all green or some shade of green here, but the outline along the borders shows which are the different factions. But I decided to start as Munster because if each faction has a little history here, and you can see that if you read about them at this point in history, they were kind of split north and south, or at least the way the game starts, they're split north and south, and so this southern region is sort of just an independent faction that's just kind of wildland. So we can start with a starting goal of conquering that area and doubling our domain. So let's jump into it. All right, so here we go. We're on turn one. I should mention this build that I'm playing is the preview build. That's not the final build. It's probably pretty close to what you get on release, but not necessarily exactly the same. So anything you see is, of course, subject to change. And then if you do like what you see, please like and subscribe to see more strategy and tactics gameplay. But so let's just do a quick overview if you're not familiar with the game. This is not meant to be like a tutorial or how to play the game, but just kind of give you an idea what you're seeing. We have only a few resources we're worried about. We got money, we got manpower, metal, which is then used for a couple things, but primarily to make equipment for our forces. Our legacy points, which, like I said, is kind of how you win the game, but we're not generating any legacy points right now because we are just a little one province faction in Ireland. But we can change that eventually. And then authority, which is kind of, if you're familiar with the terminology from the Paradox games, like this is kind of your mana. These points you can build up and then use for different things, which we'll see as we go. We click on our one province here. This is one of the things I love about this game, where in I'll just keep comparing it probably to Europa Universalis, but where in EU, um, you can build buildings, but it's always kind of boring. It's like just a little thing you click, and a lot of times you don't really care about it. It's very abstract. Here, the buildings and the managing your provinces is really got a lot of character to it, and you can kind of get into the nitty gritty, and it really makes the game fun. If you're playing as like England or the Byzantine Empire, you've got so many provinces that you're probably going to be automating a lot of them, but you don't have to. You can manually control all of them. But what makes this cool is that even if I'm just here playing like this one province faction, I can come in here and actually have some interesting choices to make even with just my one province. And so if we look here, we've got these are the buildings. They're divided into 6 categories. And so right now I can't build anything because I'm at the limit based on my population. I can't build any more buildings, but as time goes by, we'll be able to plop down lots of buildings. But we can see how much food we're generating, how much infrastructure, money, manpower, metal, equipment, piety, which is kind of like our religious score, and then stewardship, which is kind of our like government score, which we want some of both of those to build stability and maintain our rule. Equipment, we need to build and maintain military units. Metal, we need for a few different things, but mainly to convert it into equipment. Manpower, obviously, for military units, and then money for lots of things. Infrastructure to build new buildings, and food to grow our population. So if we look here, we see we're pretty stable as far as being Irish Catholics, and then our population is growing in 4 turns, and we'll get a new population marker. So what does that look like? Well, kind of borrowing from like the Victoria games, you have your pops down here. So each of these little guys represents a unit of your population. Right now we're pretty sparse, but the green ones are the peasants, who are just kind of the backbone of your population. Mostly they can work as in your agriculture, which is this green buildings, or infrastructure, which is the pink ones. But you can actually move these guys around and say you want to reassign them to different things, but peasants can really only do these 2. And then here we have 1 unit of freemen, and these are your 1 step up from your peasants, who are a little more capable, and they can actually be assigned down here to the commerce line, where they generate a little bit more money if you assign them there. And then over here we have some clergy and some nobles who kind of stick to their area. You could move them around, but for now, since we're limited, we're going to keep them here. Like the nobles, we could put them here to generate a lot more equipment for our military, but we want them on stewardship to maintain our government. And then the clergy, we want them here for piety, though I guess we could put them in the infrastructure, put them to work, but we won't do that. Now, the first few turns can be a little slow, especially here since we can't build anything, and we have to wait for our population to go up before we can put down any new buildings. I'm going to jump ahead a few turns to see what that looks like. All right, so we jumped ahead a bit here. We're on turn 19 now. I know that is quite a few turns ahead, but I just wanted to get a little further into it to open up some options to show you some more parts of the game that make it really interesting. Not to say that nothing interesting happened in between, but it was kind of slow going. I don't think you want to watch me hitting next turn and making a few decisions. But I can kind of show you where I'm thinking and what decisions I made to kind of get where I'm at. My first goal, as I mentioned before, was to take this South Munster, which is sort of like an independent, unconquered faction. They're not really a true faction that you can play as. There's an area that you can conquer, so it makes sense to take them first. But they're actually kind of tough to attack because they have this stronghold that gives them some extra garrison units. And so they have, in the tooltip here, you can see they have 14 units defending their lands, which is quite a bit, because even like this neighboring faction here only has 11. They have 18, but they're a bit stronger. There they have 11. So taking these guys is actually a little tougher, but there's no penalty for basically attacking and taking them. So it's an easy place to add to my kingdom if I can beat the forces defending it. Um, so looking at my army, I built them up. Of course, at this point in the game, they're pretty ragtag. And something I realized after building this army was that I maybe should have made some different decisions because my manpower is so limited. Right now, I basically maxed out what my army can be. I'm at +1 manpower per turn, so I really can't build any more units. And so I realized I probably should have built higher quality units because the manpower that they cost is basically the same. But you can always wait and build more equipment, though it still kind of caps out eventually. But manpower is going to cap out sooner. And then just to look at that screen here, these are the units I can build here at the beginning. There are some ships, though I'm not really interested in that right now. And then we can build Irish Foot, Irish Kerns, which is kind of like a local special unit. And then some javelin, early light javelin men. And so all of these, there is quite a variety of units you can build because Field of Glory Kingdoms and Empires Before It ties into the other Field of Glory games, which are focused on the actual battles, where this is the grand strategy games. If you own Field of Glory Medieval, which I'll throw in, if you're watching this as the game releases, that's on sale. It's only $15. And those are pretty fun games with like a ton of scenarios you can play, different armies you can control. If you own that game and have it installed, you can actually fight the battles from this game in that game. It'll like switch and load it, and you can fight the battle yourself and then come back to this game, which is cool. But I'm not going to do it in this video since to me it's kind of like that's a different game. So it's not really fair to review them together. But it's a cool feature. So if you like that one, it's like, hey, if you ever played EU and thought I sure would like to actually fight these battles myself in this game, you can. So that's cool, but you don't have to. But anyway, and then after building up my force, I kind of realized I probably should have built more of these picked Irish Foot because they are basically like the elite version of the regular guys. They cost a lot more, but they use the same amount of manpower. But they're more resource intensive, but manpower is kind of what limited me faster than anything else. So I realized maybe I should have built more of those guys, but it's too late now. So some ways that I can mitigate that is going into another part of the game that AGEOD uses in a lot of their previous games and carried over here, which is the regional decisions. And these are basically like kind of special powers or cards that you can play to do special things. But the interesting part is that you don't really have direct control over which of these things you get. They just kind of gradually come to you over time. You can build certain buildings and things that increase your chances of getting certain ones, but you don't have any direct control over it. So you kind of have to play the hand you're dealt. Though some of them will pop up pretty regularly. Some of them you kind of have to use as you get them opportunistically. And so like one that I got earlier was to build a spy network in my own region, I could build it somewhere else, but I built it in my region. And that let me start gathering information on which of my people in my court, what their loyalty was. Which if you look here, so this is a little bit of Crusader Kings type stuff, but it's not nearly as in depth as that. But you do get these different characters who have different skills and things. Which, like my starting leader, he's actually a really good administrator, but he's no good for battles or anything. But he's great at administration, which is good to start the game off to get your government very stable and built up. And then he has a variety of kids, and then some relatives, and then nobles at court. But all the ones with the mask are ones that I don't know what their loyalty is yet, but that kind of gradually gets revealed over time since I've built my spy network. And you can also, this is kind of your nation screen, so you can see kind of the stuff about your different perks and negative plus and minus modifiers you have. We won't jump into those, but they're pretty self-explanatory. But as the game goes on, you'll gather more things there. But anyway, to kind of mitigate the fact that my force is going to be roughly equivalent to who I'm attacking, I can go in here and use this motivate the troops power, which I got, and you can increase, hit the nice little music, and you'll increase their combat power on the next turn. So perfect for going on the attack. You can do some stuff like spy on the nobility, or a forced march, or I don't have it here. There's like a sneak attack you can use to attack another nation, like declare war and attack another nation and negate a lot of the penalties you would normally get. A call to arms to get more troops, but you have to have manpower for that to work, and I don't have any manpower. So each of these does have a cost that you can see here, which some are basically free, but some do have a cost to them. And then on the flip side, though, you can actually sell back. If you look at the tooltip there, you can kind of sell back a move that or decision that you're not going to use, or like if I desperately needed some money, you can kind of turn these back in for money instead of using them. Anyway, there's a lot of different ones, and some of them are very situational, but some of them kind of give you opportunities to do things. I mean, you'll be like, oh, I got this one, like I need to use this now to accomplish one of my goals. So I really like this system. It seems simple, but it just like gives you so many options, and you don't, like I said, it's sort of random which ones you get. And so as they pop up, it's kind of cool to use them to execute your strategy using what you got. Anyway, so now I don't need to declare war or anything. There is diplomacy, but since this is basically a non-faction, we can just roll in and attack them. We'll see what happens. The first time I played this, I did conquer them, but then the next time I lost several times in a row, so I don't know if I just got lucky. But anyway, we'll attack and see what happens. We'll hit in turn. And so the turn time, it's not too bad. And then we'll go here to the battle. So if, like I said, if you have Field of Glory Medieval, here we're just going to watch it, but if you have Field of Glory Medieval, you can play this out in the other game. It'll, like, at this point, it'll switch, load it. It looks better than it does here, and you can individually control all your units, and it's a whole, battle system to itself. But here, it's just automatic. It just kind of plays out. Alright, so there we got a draw, and then it goes into another battle, which we'll probably lose since now we're outnumbered a bit. So, yeah, my force got wiped out there. Though I swear the first time I played this, I won that battle. So I'm going to kind of cheat and reload after this in a second. But I just want to see, this is kind of how long it takes to run one turn. Not too bad, but especially since I'm playing such a small faction, there's not a whole lot of decisions each turn, so you're kind of clicking that turn button. But like I said, this isn't the final code, so maybe in the final build it goes a little faster. But we'll see here, whenever you come out of a new turn, you get some notifications. We have fought that battle. General fell in the battle, who was like our only, so I didn't talk about before, you can assign some of those characters from your court to be your general. And there are different kinds. They have different bonuses that they provide. But he was the only one who had actual like 1/1 offense and defense rating, besides whatever other bonus he had. We got a decision of grant land. Just to give you an example of how these can just pop up. We can grant some land to a minor noble or war veteran, creating a vassal or minor fiefdom. So that could be useful, but right now we only have the one province, so I'm not going to give it to anybody else. All right, now we'll jump ahead and assume that we did win that battle. Okay, so now through the magic of editing, I actually won that battle. We're on turn 22 now somehow. But just to show what it looks like now, we've doubled our domains. Now we have control of South Munster as well. And let's see, so we got a different regional decision. So we got sneak attack, which is perfect for my plan. This lets us declare war on another faction, and we can attack, have our troops move on the same turn that we declare war, and reduce our authority cost by 20 points. So like I said, authority is kind of your mana that you have to spend to do things. And so if, say, the next thing I wanted to do is attack Munster here, go into the diplomacy screen, we want to declare war, we would... I didn't want to do it all the way. Go back. If we wanted to declare war on them, we would be... Oh. Okay, cancel. So if we want to declare war on them, we would be losing 13 authority by declaring war on them, because we're also Catholic and we don't have any claim on their territory. I don't really have any good means to generate a claim right now. So getting this little sneak attack where we just we're just going to attack them anyway. Not right now, but we could later. Gives us an opportunity to continue our expansion, because they would be our natural next target, as being fairly weak compared to us, or at least we can build up an army to conquer them, and they're just one province also. And then I didn't talk about it yet. There are different map overlays you can do, so we can see the domain overlay. So this blue is all of Munster. So if we took all of that, we would form a domain, which then kind of opens up some more options that lets you can automate a domain. You can assign one of your nobles or someone from your family to be the governor, sort of, and then kind of automate it and tell them what you want them to do. But we're not, and then some of the decisions that you get are domain based rather than province. So that opens up some more options once you get there. So that's our next plan, is to go there. But for our purposes right now, I wanted to hit on the one more area that I haven't looked at too much yet, which was the buildings. So we talked about there's 6 different categories, and at any given time you can have one building being constructed using your infrastructure stat in each region. And what's cool is, what makes it an interesting choice is that you typically have one choice from each of those categories at a time that you have to kind of pick, okay, of these things, which one do I want? And then once that's finished, it'll shuffle and give you different choices. You can come down here and force selection, which I don't think it gives you all the options, just certain ones, and it costs you authority points to do that. Though it's not too bad if you really need a certain building. But for me, it's interesting to kind of pick from what's available, what's offered to you, and try to maximize. And where this is so much better than like Europa Universalis, where you kind of build, there's not that many different buildings, you kind of build like the same ones over and over for the most part. It was never very exciting to me. Here, each of these buildings has like very different things it does, and they kind of tie together within the region, within your other regions. You start developing a trade network of different resources that you're producing, and you can get some synergy going, lots of synergy going if you kind of pay attention to what you're building. So just for some examples, we look here and see, all right, we can do, for the green agriculture, we could do the hunting reserve. That's going to give us some more food per turn, cost us a little bit of infrastructure, but it produces furs and pelts ×2. So that's one of those strategic resources. And it actually produces 2 of them, which is pretty good. And then if you have that, some of your other buildings might use that to get a bonus, or neighboring factions might trade for it. And trade is like an automated thing that you don't directly control, but you kind of indirectly control it based on your trade power, which you can increase by building lots of commerce buildings and certain things, which makes playing like a merchant republic be a valid thing you can play, because you'll have so many strong commerce buildings that you'll kind of control trade, and you'll be able to build or you'll be able to generate money because all the resources will come through you because you got the stats for it, to kind of force that. But anyway, so each one's also going to generate some different resources. So if we build like the clay pit, we're going to get 5 infrastructure and some stone as a resource. We build the anchorage, we get some money, we get some siege resistance, we can board units easier. It doesn't use a building slot, so it's kind of a freebie. It only takes 1 turn to build for us right now. It lifts the fog of war in the adjacent sea, so like you can see, like this does a lot of different unique things. And then building some of these, like, you can be upgraded later to a small harbor, and then some of these you'll need to build to unlock other stuff later. The timber keep also doesn't use a slot, gives us some fortification, but it's a temporary structure, so it goes away after a little while. So anyway, I won't list off all it for once, but just to give you an idea. And then some of them will get bonuses based on if you have access to certain resources. So like livestock, which we built in Munster. One of the things I built was the pigsty, which gives you food and money and produces livestock. So now when you come here, we could build the village green, which gets bonus food and money from having access to livestock, which we have, that we can trade from our own nation there. And then it does all these other things as well. So to me, that is so much more interesting than what you see in some of the other games, where you're kind of building the same stuff over and over. Here, you're only offered so many things to choose from. You have to kind of pick from what you got, and you're looking to maximize that synergy, or if like a really juicy building comes up, you're going to go for it. Let's see what's on offer up here. We're building the well right now, which gives us some health and infrastructure. We could build the shepherd house to get wool, but we don't have grain or flax, so we're not getting the bonus there. And then we could build like the freeman's cottage, which is going to increase the chance that we get freeman population down here. And it's going to do a lot of other stuff. It adds to your garrison, it adds to health, but it costs money. And it takes a little longer to build. So to me, all these, and these are just like the starter buildings. Like there's different tiers of buildings. These are just the tier 1 buildings. And there's so many, and then they can be upgraded, and eventually you're going to build other stuff too. And down here, you'll have all these different buildings, and then you'll have more population to move around to kind of power those buildings and get you more resources. And to me, that's what's cool about this game, is that even here, I have 2 provinces, but I have all these choices to make about what buildings I want to build, what my army is going to look like. In certain regions, you might have access to mercenaries, which I don't here. But as you build certain buildings, you'll get access to more unit types that you can construct. You'll get more, eventually, as your population grows, you'll have more manpower and more resources to be able to build more and more interesting, powerful units. So I'm going to go ahead just one more turn just to kind of see what happens. And I know I'm kind of rambling, but I really like this game as someone who used to love the Paradox games, but then found them to kind of stagnate some and get bloated with just too many stats and screens and things. Here, it's cut down, but what's here is all the choices you make have something interesting about them. There's always some trade-offs. There's some benefits. You're not just kind of like picking the same thing over and over to actually feel different. Like here, we have an occultist as our like religious building, which actually hurts our legacy. If we were getting legacy points, it'd actually make it go down. And we can't directly get rid of this. We can't just choose to tear it down. We have to build like an astronomer workshop to have a chance to remove it later. Or if we got the decision to remove hostels, we could use that to get rid of it. And it's not happening here, but before I had it happen where I had heretics here, which probably is coming from maybe having this occultist building. So there's negative buildings too that you might not be able to directly get rid of, but you can get rid of over time. And then your population can be more mixed. Here, you know, we're in Ireland, so everyone's Catholic, everyone's Irish. But if you were playing down here, like in Spain, somewhere, you might have, you know, Sunni peasants, Catholics. There we got heretic clergy. So there'd be Sunni, Shia, Jewish, Catholic, just a variety of different populations that you're looking at that are from different regions that might not get along so well as our guys here do. But anyway, I wanted to offer this example of play of Field of Glory Kingdoms as it comes out, and I'll probably play some more and maybe do a little later in the gameplay. But I just wanted to show this as even just here, just playing 1-2 provinces, I can sit here and yak about it for 30 minutes and I haven't really gotten into the nitty gritty of it tracks all the things like loyalty, authority, and you know, the building the army. I kind of went over that a little bit, but you know, as you see, there's all these different units. They have a lot of stats. They can level up as you keep. There's mercenaries, there's levies, there's standing units. They have all these stats. Like some of these guys have this negative modifier of being hastily levied, which you can't really get rid of until you develop your military more with like more structures and more experienced people. And over time, you can get rid of that stuff. But like our guys do have a bonus of that they're marshmen, so like whenever they're in swampy terrain, they get all these bonuses, which is kind of cool, being that that's where they're from. But they're not going to stand up against, you know, a more professional army coming from somewhere else. It's just going to be way stronger than them. And if you've played the Field of Glory games, you know that there are like a million different kinds of units of just all varieties of nationalities and regions, and it tries to give a pretty authentic experience of presenting these medieval armies. And so as the game goes on, you're going to see more and more interesting stuff there too. Anyway, I've gone on long enough, and so I will close it out here. If you're looking for a grand strategy game, take a look at Field of Glory Kingdoms. It's doing a lot of cool stuff that you don't see in some of the other games. It pares down all the bloat from some of those games so that it's really straightforward and easy to play. There is a tutorial campaign that'll kind of walk you through all this stuff in a more organized fashion than me rambling on about it. And you can start there and then jump over into the grand campaign and try your hand at, you know, whichever part of this map. This was just me trying to conquer Ireland, but you know, you can pick wherever you want to start, big or small, and do your thing. So check it out. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more gameplay from Example of Play. Thanks. Bye.